They say that rock bottom has a basement. I used to think that was just a clever phrase people used to describe a bad day. I didn't know it was a physical place until I found myself living in it. My name is Mia, and before I was the woman you see on the magazine covers, the woman in the tailored suits with the ice-cold stare, I was a ghost. I was invisible. I was the girl counting pennies in the checkout line, praying the card wouldn't decline. But this isn't a story about being poor. Poverty is just a circumstance. This is a story about betrayal. The kind of betrayal that doesn't just break your heart, it rearranges your DNA. It turns you into someone else entirely. And that transformation, it cost me $50 million. It started 3 years ago. I was living in a basement apartment on the south side of the city with a man named Jax. If you asked me back then, I would have told you Jax was a dreamer. I would have told you he was misunderstood. He had this way of looking at you that made you feel like you were the only two people in the world. He talked about our future constantly. "When I make it big, Mia," he would say, "I'm going to buy you a studio for your art. I'm going to buy us a house on the coast where we can watch the ocean every morning." I believed him. I worked double shifts at a diner, standing on my feet for 12 hours a day, just to keep the lights on while he chased his investments. I didn't see the laziness then. I didn't see the manipulation. I just saw potential. I was in love with a version of him that didn't exist. The night everything changed was a Tuesday. It was November, and the rain was freezing, the kind of rain that seeps through your coat and settles in your bones. I had just finished a 10-hour shift. My tips were terrible. I had $40 in my pocket, and rent was due in 2 days. We were short by $300. As I walked home, head down against the wind, I felt a vibration in my pocket. It was the landlord. Another text message threatening eviction. The stress felt like a physical weight pushing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I stopped at Sal's corner store just to get out of the rain. The fluorescent lights inside were humming, buzzing like an angry insect. I walked to the counter to buy a loaf of bread and a carton of milk. That's when I saw it. The lottery sign. The jackpot had rolled over for weeks. The neon orange numbers screamed at me. $50 million. It was an amount of money I couldn't even comprehend. To me, $500 was a fortune. $50 million was a fantasy. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the exhaustion, maybe it was the desperation. But I looked at the $10 bill in my hand, money I needed for food, and I put it on the counter. I asked for a quick pick. The clerk, a tired man named Sal, who had seen me count change for milk 100 times, looked at me with pity. "You sure, Mia?" he asked. "Odds aren't great." I just nodded. I didn't have the energy to explain that when you have nothing, the odds don't matter anymore. Hope is the only currency you have left. I walked home clutching that small slip of paper inside my coat pocket like it was a secret. When I got to the apartment, Jax was on the couch. He was playing video games surrounded by empty soda cans. He didn't look up when I walked in. "Dinner?" he asked, eyes glued to the screen. I told him I wasn't hungry. I didn't tell him I spent our dinner money on a lottery ticket. I felt foolish. I felt irresponsible. So I just went to the bedroom, crawled under the thin blanket, and turned on the small, portable TV we kept on the dresser. The drawing was at 10:59 p.m. I remember the time exactly. Jax came into the room, complaining about the cold, and sat on the edge of the bed. "What are you watching?" he asked. I pulled the ticket out. "Just dreaming," I whispered. He laughed, a short, dismissive laugh. "We have better luck getting struck by lightning, babe," he said. But he didn't leave. He watched with me. The balls dropped, one by one, 4, 12, 28, 33, 7, and the Powerball, 19. I looked at the ticket, then at the screen, then at the ticket again. The silence in the room was deafening. It was louder than the rain outside, louder than the sirens in the distance. My brain couldn't process the image. It refused to connect the ink on the paper to the numbers on the screen. It was Jax who realized it first. He snatched the ticket from my hand. His eyes went wide, pupils dilating until they were almost black. He started shaking. "Mia," he whispered. Mia, look at this. Then the screaming started. We were jumping on the bed, hugging each other, crying. It was pure, unadulterated hysteria. $50 million. We were free. No more eviction notices. No more double shifts. No more holes in my shoes. Jax held my face in his hands, tears streaming down his cheeks. "We did it, Mia," he said. "We made it. I told you our ship was coming in. I told you." We stayed up until 4 a.m. planning our lives. He wanted a Ferrari. I wanted to pay off my mother's medical debt. He wanted a penthouse in the city. I wanted a garden. It didn't matter that our dreams were different. We had enough money to make them all come true. I remember looking at him, really looking at him, and feeling a wave of guilt for ever doubting him. He was my partner. We had survived the storm, and now we were going to see the sun. I fell asleep with my head on his chest, the ticket sitting on the nightstand under a glass of water. It was the most peaceful sleep of my life. I didn't know it was the last time I would ever trust another human being. I woke up to blinding sunlight. It was late, maybe 10 a.m. The apartment was quiet. I reached over to touch Jax, but the sheets were cold, ice cold. I sat up, rubbing my eyes. "Jax!" I called out. No answer. The bathroom door was open. The living room was empty. A pit started to form in my stomach, a primal instinct that something was wrong. I looked at the nightstand. The glass of water was there, but the ticket was gone. Panic is a cold thing. It starts in your toes and shoots up to your throat. I jumped out of bed and tore the room apart. I threw the pillows, checked under the mattress, emptied the trash can. "Jax!" I screamed his name, hoping he was just at the store, hoping he was playing a prank. But then I saw the closet. It was empty. His hoodies were gone. His duffel bag was gone. His shoes were gone. I ran to the kitchen. On the counter, stuck to the fridge with a magnet, was a piece of yellow notebook paper. My hands shook so hard I could barely pull it off. The handwriting was messy, hurried. It read, "Mia, don't come looking for me. You were always holding me back. I deserve this fresh start. You're strong, you'll survive. Consider the last 3 years' payment enough. Jax." I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I think I went into shock. I just slid down the refrigerator door until I hit the linoleum floor. I sat there for hours. I sat there until the sun went down and the room turned gray. He didn't just take the money. He took my trust. He took my past. He took the 3 years I spent supporting him, feeding him, loving him, and he cashed them in like a chip at a casino. The next few days were a blur of humiliation. I went to the police, of course. I stood at the front desk, looking like a maniac, trying to explain that my boyfriend stole a lottery ticket. The officer looked at me with tired eyes. "Did you sign the back of the ticket, ma'am?" he asked. I said no. "Do you have a photo of the ticket?" I said no. "Well," he sighed, closing his notebook. "Possession is 9/10 of the law. Unless you can prove you bought it, there's nothing we can do. It's a domestic dispute." A domestic dispute. That's what they called the theft of my entire life. 2 days later, the landlord came. He didn't care about my sob story. He wanted his money. When I couldn't pay, he gave me 24 hours to get out. I packed my life into 2 black garbage bags. I walked out of that apartment into the same freezing rain that had started this whole nightmare. I put the bags in the trunk of my rusted Toyota Corolla, drove to a Walmart parking lot, and reclined the seat. That was my home now. For the first month, I wanted to die. I'm not saying that for dramatic effect. I truly didn't see a point in continuing. I would spend my days washing my face in gas station bathrooms, and my nights shivering in the back seat, eating canned beans. But the worst torture wasn't the hunger. It was the news. Jax wasn't hiding. He was everywhere. I saw him on the TVS in the electronics store window. "The mystery winner revealed!" the headline screamed. There he was, holding the giant check, flashing that charming smile that used to melt my heart. He told the reporters he was a self-made investor. He told them he had just gotten lucky. I watched him buying drinks for everyone in a club. I watched him on a yacht in Miami. I watched him living my life. I remember one night specifically, it was Christmas Eve. I was parked behind a warehouse to stay out of the wind. I was scrolling through social media on my phone using free public Wi-Fi. I found his new profile. He posted a video of himself burning a stack of $100 bills just for a laugh. He captioned it, "Money to burn." Something in me snapped that night. It wasn't a loud snap. It was a quiet metallic click in the back of my mind. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked haggard. I looked defeated. I looked exactly like what he thought I was, a stepping stone, a victim. I wiped the tears off my face. "No," I said to the empty car. "No." I deleted the social media app. I turned off the phone. I made a promise to the universe, to God, to whoever was listening. I promised that I wouldn't just survive. I would thrive. I promised that I would build something so big, so undeniable, that one day, Jack Sterling would look up from his stolen life and realize he was standing in my shadow. The climb out of the hole was slow. It was agonizing. I got a job as a dishwasher at a bakery called Henderson's. Mr. Henderson was a grumpy old man who didn't ask questions about why I smelled like car exhaust. He just pointed to the sink and said, "Scrub." So I scrubbed. I scrubbed until my hands bled. I scrubbed dishes for 12 hours a day, and I saved every single penny. I didn't buy coffee. I didn't buy new clothes. I ate the stale bread they were going to throw away at the end of the night. 6 months in, I had enough for a deposit on a tiny studio apartment. It was the size of a closet, and it smelled like mildew, but it had a shower. I stood under that hot water for an hour, washing away the homeless girl, washing away the victim. I started coming in early to the bakery. I learned how to knead the dough, I learned the inventory, I learned the books. Mr. Henderson noticed. He started teaching me the business side, margins, supply chains, overhead. I soaked it up like a sponge. I discovered I had a talent for it. Business made sense to me. Numbers didn't lie, numbers didn't promise to love you and then steal your future. Numbers were safe. 3 years passed. I was the manager now. I wore clean suits I bought from thrift stores. I walked with my head high. And Jax? The news about him started to change. The headlines went from Lottery King to Party Prince, then Lottery Bad Boy, and finally, the crash. I read the articles with a cold detachment. Jax was being sued. Jax was invested in a Ponzi scheme. Jax crashed his Ferrari. The money was bleeding out of him. He was careless. He thought the well was bottomless. But I knew better. I knew exactly how deep that well was, and I knew he was hitting the mud at the bottom. When Mr. Henderson decided to retire, he didn't put the bakery on the market. He offered it to me. "You treat this place like it's yours anyway," he said. I used my savings, every dollar I had scraped together for 3 years, as the down payment. I owned it. I renamed it Golden Crumb. I worked harder than I ever had. I expanded, I franchised, I launched a line of gourmet pastries that went viral online. Within 5 years, I wasn't just a bakery owner, I was a CEO. I had a headquarters in the city. I had a driver. I had a penthouse view of the skyline. I had won. I had beaten the odds without a lottery ticket. I had built a fortune that no one could steal because it was built on my sweat, my brain, my resilience. But the story wasn't over. The universe has a funny way of balancing the scales. It was a Tuesday, exactly 5 years to the day since I bought that ticket. I was sitting in my office reviewing the quarterly earnings when my private line rang. Only 3 people had that number. I picked it up. "This is Mia," I said. There was silence on the other end, then a ragged, heavy breath, and then a voice that sent a shiver down my spine. "Mia?" he rasped. "Is that you?" It was him. I hadn't heard that voice in 5 years, but it triggered a physical reaction in me instantly. My stomach tightened, the hairs on my arms stood up. But it wasn't fear anymore. It was the thrill of a hunter spotting its prey. "Jax," I said. My voice was steady. It was the voice of a CEO, not the girl who used to clip coupons. "I'm surprised you still remember my number." "I never forgot it," he stammered. He sounded desperate, breathless. "Mia, please don't hang up. I'm in the city. I'm in trouble, serious trouble. I have nowhere else to go." I spun my chair around to look at the city skyline. I could see the reflection of my office in the glass. The mahogany desk, the expensive art, the power. And why is that my problem? I asked. You made your choice, Jax. You chose the money. I made a mistake, he cried. I could hear the background noise on his end, honking cars, wind. He was on the street. Mia, listen to me. The people around me, they weren't real. They stole from me. They scammed me. I lost the penthouse. I lost the cars. I'm sleeping at the bus station. I haven't eaten in 2 days. I let the silence hang there. I wanted him to sweat. I wanted him to wonder if I had hung up. I did it to protect you, he added, his voice dropping to a whisper. I almost laughed out loud. Protect me? Yes, the money. It's a curse, Mia. It changes people. It brings out the wolves. I took the burden so you could stay pure. I left to save you from becoming this. It was the most pathetic lie I'd ever heard. But it was also perfect. He was trying to manipulate me. He thought I was still the same naive, soft-hearted girl he had left behind. He thought he could play on my sympathy. He didn't realize that the girl he left behind died in a Walmart parking lot 5 years ago. I'm listening, I said. Just let me see you, he begged. 5 minutes, that's all I ask. If you tell me to leave after that, I will, I promise. I looked at the calendar on my desk. The charity gala was in 3 months. The timing was almost poetic. Fine, I said. The Sterling Tower, penthouse office. You have 1 hour. Don't be late. I hung up the phone and pressed the intercom button. Security, I said. There is a man coming up. He's going to look rough. Let him through and send him straight to me. When the elevator doors opened 40 minutes later, I barely recognized him. The Jax I remembered was arrogant, loud, always taking up space. The man who walked into my office was a ghost. He was wearing a suit that looked like it had been slept in for weeks. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken and darting around the room nervously. He smelled like stale coffee and desperation. When he saw me, he froze. He took in the tailored suit, the view, the sheer wealth radiating from the room. I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. It wasn't regret. It was greed. Pure, unadulterated greed. Mia, he breathed, walking toward me with his arms open. My God, you look incredible. I didn't stand up, I didn't smile, I just pointed to the chair opposite my desk. Sit. He hesitated, then sat. He started launching into his speech, a rehearsed apology about how much he missed me, how he thought about me every day. I let him talk. I watched him spin his web, knowing I was already holding the scissors. I want to make it right, he said, tears forming in his eyes. I want to be the man you deserve, but I need a chance, Mia. I need a leg up. We were a team once, remember? A team, I repeated. Teams don't steal $50 million from each other, Jax. I know, and I'll pay you back, every cent, once I get back on my feet. I have ideas, Mia, big investment ideas. I just need capital. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the desk. I'm not going to give you money, Jax. His face fell. The anger flashed for a second before he hid it. But, I continued, I will give you a job. A job? He blinked. You mean, like an executive position? Consultant? No, I said coldly. I mean a personal assistant. You'll answer my phones, you'll fetch my coffee, you'll pick up my dry cleaning, and you'll drive me where I need to go. Minimum wage, no benefits. He looked insulted. Mia, come on, I used to own a jet. I can't be an assistant. Then leave, I said, reaching for my paperwork. Go back to the bus station. It's warm outside today, isn't it? He stared at me. He looked at the door, then back at the luxury of my office. He swallowed his pride. I'll take it, he whispered. For the next 3 months, I made his life a living hell. But I did it with a smile. I made him wait in the car for hours while I had lunch with clients. I made him carry heavy boxes of inventory. I corrected his grammar in front of junior employees. And every day, I watched him. I watched him eyeing my safe. I watched him trying to look over my shoulder when I typed in my passwords. I watched him talking to my investors, trying to charm them, trying to plant seeds that he was the real brains behind the operation. He hadn't changed. He hadn't learned a single thing. He was just biding his time, waiting for the moment to rob me again. He thought he was playing me. He didn't know I was recording everything. 1 week before the gala, I called him into my office. I poured 2 glasses of scotch, the expensive kind he used to buy when he was blowing through my money. "Jax," I said, sliding a glass toward him. "You've been working hard." He took the glass, his confidence returning instantly. "I have, Mia. I told you, I'm committed." "I've been thinking," I lied. "This company, it's too big for one person. I need a partner, someone who knows me, someone who knew me before all of this." His eyes lit up like Christmas trees. "Mia, are you saying—" "I'm saying I want to announce a partnership at the charity gala on Saturday. I want you by my side. We can run this empire together, just like we planned in that basement." He downed the scotch in one gulp. "I knew it," he said, grinning. "I knew you still loved me. We're destiny, babe." "Destiny," I agreed. "Make sure you wear a tuxedo on Saturday. I want you to look the part." The night of the gala arrived. The ballroom was filled with the city's elite, CEOs, politicians, celebrities. The chandeliers were sparkling and the champagne was flowing. Jax arrived in a tuxedo I had paid for, looking like the cat who caught the canary. He was strutting. He was shaking hands with people who wouldn't have looked at him twice a week ago. He whispered in my ear, "This is it, Mia. We made it." "Yes," I said, "we certainly did." At 9 p.m., the lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage. I walked up to the podium, the microphone cold in my hand. Jax stood right behind me, puffing out his chest, ready to step forward and accept his applause. "Thank you all for coming," I said, my voice echoing through the silent hall. "Tonight is a celebration of success, but it is also a celebration of justice." I paused. The room was dead silent. 5 years ago, I continued, a woman bought a lottery ticket. She was poor, she was struggling, and that ticket was her way out. But the man she loved stole it while she slept. I heard a slight shuffle behind me. Jax was starting to get nervous. He cleared his throat. "He took the money," I said, my voice rising. "He left her homeless. He spent every dime on cars and parties while she slept in a car. And when the money ran out, he came crawling back, pretending to be a victim." Jax stepped forward, grabbing my arm. "Mia," he hissed. "What are you doing? Stop!" I pulled my arm away and looked at the crowd. "That man is here tonight. He thinks he is about to become a partner in my company. But he forgot one thing. He forgot that I keep receipts." I pointed to the massive screen behind the stage. The video played. It was grainy, black and white footage, but it was clear enough. It showed the interior of Sal's corner store. The timestamp was November 14th, 5 years ago, 10:48 p.m. It showed me, in my distinctive yellow raincoat, walking to the counter. It showed me handing Sal the $10 bill. It showed Sal handing me the ticket. And most importantly, it showed me putting the ticket into my pocket. The crowd gasped. It was a collective sound of shock. I turned to Jax. His face had gone pale white. He looked like he was going to vomit. "You signed a legal affidavit claiming you bought that ticket, Jax," I said into the microphone. "That is fraud. That is grand larceny. And since the amount was over $50 million, that is a life sentence." "No," he whispered. "No, Mia, you can't." "I can," I said. And I did. The back doors of the ballroom swung open. 4 police officers marched in. They weren't smiling. Jax tried to run. He actually tried to scramble off the side of the stage, but security caught him before he made it 3 steps. As they dragged him away, kicking and screaming, the facade broke. The charm was gone. The love was gone. "You witch!" he screamed. "I made you! You're nothing without me! I should have left you in that basement!" I watched him go. I watched him disappear through the double doors, the flashing blue lights of the police cars reflecting off the ballroom walls. I turned back to the crowd. They were staring at me, stunned. I raised my glass. "To justice," I said. The applause started slowly, then it grew. It became a roar. I didn't see Jax again after that. I heard he took a plea deal, 15 years in federal prison. He sends me letters sometimes, begging for money, begging for a lawyer. I don't open them. I have a shredder in my office specifically for his mail. The next morning, I went back to the old neighborhood. I drove my car past the basement apartment where we used to live. It was still there, still dreary, still raining. I parked the car and reached into my purse. I pulled out the yellow sticky note he had left on the fridge 5 years ago. I had kept it in my wallet every single day. A reminder. Fuel! I rolled down the window. I tore the note into tiny pieces and held my hand out into the rain. I watched the yellow scraps of paper flutter down into the gutter, washing away with the dirty water. I felt lighter. The anger was gone. The revenge was over. I put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. I didn't look back in the rearview mirror. I didn't need to. There was nothing behind me but ghosts, and I had a company to run. My name is Mia. I started with nothing. I lost everything, and then I won.